An update on the homicide from last night, and then we're going to talk about what the police department, the school department, and the city is doing to protect the young men and women in the city. Having a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old from the same school killed within a 2-week period is very frightening, and we just want to go over what we're doing for that. First of all, last night around 6:41 p.m., we were dispatched to Shelton and Huntington for the report of a person shot. 911 calls reporting a male victim lying in the driveway suffering from gunshot wounds. Medical aid was rendered on the scene, and he was transported to Yale New Haven, where he succumbed to his injuries. The victim was identified as Daley Jackson, a 17-year-old New Haven resident and Riverside High School student. Video surveillance from our RTC showed that a car pulled up, someone got out of the car, fired at Jackson as he was walking on Shelton Avenue. There were no other reported injuries. There were shell casings located, which matched the video, and we since have located the vehicle, which was a stolen car, and we are processing that vehicle. We're not going to give any other information about that vehicle at the time because it's part of the investigation, but we have found the car and we are processing the car. We know that Jackson and the homicide victim week and a half ago, Uzziah Shell, were friends and have involved in feuds with other groups in the city. The shootings of both these young men do not appear to be random, and we have reason to believe that they were targeted by members of those groups. We have been attempting to identify other individuals in the city who may also be targeted, as well as those who might retaliate in order to disrupt the cycle of violence. Right away after Uzziah's death, we had gone to Riverside with the police department and the school department and CTVIP and the community resilience team and YARD, and all the city departments are working together. And I'd like to thank our partners, which also include Juvenile Probation, New Haven Board of Education, the Connecticut Office of Violence Prevention, Project Longevity, Clifford Beers, for their efforts. Now, after that original homicide, we met several times. Everybody went out, took responsibilities of going to certain kids, offering them services, making sure people are safe. There was even a family moved out of the city for safety reasons, which I'm not going to comment on, but that's the type of stuff we do to ensure that people are safe. Now that this homicide happened, we immediately had a law enforcement meeting this morning with all the law enforcement partners, including our federal partners, prosecutors, juvenile probation again, and then we followed that up with a meeting with our school department partners, Project Longevity, CTVIP, Clifford Beers, all these partners again. And our strategy is to reach out to the families, surround the families with support. We are looking to move another 2 families out of the city, just for, there's no immediate danger, but just for safety purposes. And we're taking every thing necessary that we can do to keep the rest of our children in this city safe. I'll take questions afterwards, but I'm going to turn it over to the mayor for now.
Thanks, Chief Jacobson, for the work that you and your team are doing. And, you know, I first want to just start off by saying that we've lost 2 young community members in the last 2 weeks, and it is tragic, not just because they had their whole lives ahead of them, but because it impacts their families and their friends and their classmates and loved ones that will be impacted by this loss forever. And so on behalf of the city of New Haven, our deepest condolences go out to the families. I was at the scene last night at Riverside this morning, where both Uzziah and Daley went to school, and as you can imagine, the classmates and teachers and other members of the school community were just devastated by the loss of 2 of their classmates. And Dr. Groen's going to speak to this, but the schools are doing a lot to support the young people in the school community during this time to ensure that they have everything that they need to get through this really difficult time. I think it also underscores the complexity of the challenge we face with our young people, where on the one hand, we will hold our young people accountable if they engage in violent activity. And the New Haven Police Department is working very, very hard to identify the people that are involved in this and bring them to justice. And on the other hand, we deeply care about the same very people that are involved in the violence. and we'll do everything we can to help support them making good decisions. And just as an example, these two young boys, they're boys, not men, these two young boys were involved in some of the city programs that we had. They both were involved in LEAP. Uzziah was part of our Youth at Work program, was painting fire hydrants for this past summer as part of our Youth at Work program. And Daly was working at the Q House. So these are the very young men that we want to help support, and some of our programs were designed to do just that. And at the same time, young boys oftentimes are not able to manage their anger as well as they should, and make bad decisions. And so we will continue to do as much as we can to help support our young people, and try to do as much more as we can to ensure that we're offering our young people other options and other support. I think that's all I have for now. I'll hand over to Dr. Negron.
Of course, first I want to start by extending my condolences to the families. I have to say, it has been hard. I mean, losing a student is never an easy thing. It makes you pause, but losing two in the same school community is pretty devastating, and I think that's what I encountered this morning when I met with the staff. Of course, right now the priority has been to bring in the crisis team so that both our staff and our students have the necessary supports that they need at this time to be able to process the loss, try to make sense of something that is completely senseless. Of course, we are grateful for the partnerships that are happening to help us navigate the situation. But again, I'm just pleading with everybody out there. We see these boys when they come into our school, and when I spoke with the principal, spoke with the school community, the people that we see inside of our schools are very different. They come in, they show their best selves. They're able to engage and talk with adults. The minute they leave our doors, something is happening where they're getting caught up in the nonsense that is happening in our streets. And it has to stop. I know, and I'm grateful for everything that is being done to the coordinated efforts, but please know that these days are very hard for our school community. A school community that is here, particularly at this high school, that is focused on creating alternative ways to engage our youth. But when you wake up and hear about another loss, sometimes we are just at a loss for words. So again, grateful for the partnerships. We're looking forward to the continued collaboration that is happening. And I pray that we don't have to be back at this podium in another week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. I want to thank the superintendent. We've been on the phone a lot the last 2 weeks and have great constant communication, and that's what's needed to put this to an end. I'll take questions. I might not be able to answer many questions, but.
A question for Dr. Negron first. You said that a crisis team is at Riverside making sure students and staff have resources they need to process the loss. What specifically does that mean? What resources are being made available?
So unfortunately, we tend to have a lot of experience in these situations. So when something like this happens, immediately we activate what we call the crisis team. That is basically a group of individuals, primarily social workers, counselors, people with the expertise to be able to come into the school environment to support, right? Support the teachers, support the schools, so that it creates an environment where people can have what they need at that point. Some folks, right, just need to be in silence, but some folks need just consoling. Some folks often need to be able to process and question. And for that, that's why we want to bring the people who are trained to do this work to be there to support the school. So that's what we have done.
Absolutely, and that's what a lot of these meetings are about. We're making lists of people that could potentially retaliate for the victims and also, you know, shoot on the other side. And all of the people that we're putting on those lists, we're going out and meeting with. We're offering services. We're finding out where they are. Some of them have warrants. They're going to be picked up and arrested. Some of them are on probation. They're going to be given GPS bracelets. It's about being able to sustain some time and some peaceful time as we put the case together and make an arrest. So our appeal to Jackson's friends and Uzziah Shell's friends is give us time. We have a lot of stuff going on both these cases. We're gonna make arrests. We're gonna hold people accountable. So give us time to do that and don't run out there and do something stupid and ruin your life. But in the meantime, we have people surrounding those kids who may retaliate with resources and the kids on the other side who may retaliate.
I think that's an interesting point you're making too, that you're calling them kids. I mean, these are teens that you're concerned about.
Yeah, for the most part, there's some people on that we're looking at that in their 20s, 18, 19, but they're still teens.
Are you able to elaborate any further on their relationship? Or, I don't know, are they rivals or they friends or?
No, we see them as friends. They went to Riverside together. The one thing that we don't believe anybody in Riverside, in that Riverside community that goes to school in Riverside, is against each other. It's something from the outside.
And do you know if, looking at the numbers, I think you're down 50% for homicides this year over last year. It was 11 versus 22. This recent spike, do you know if it's spiking from something that's going on?
Well, I mean, these two are connected. The one from Monday night is not. I mean, that's, you know, we'll be able to say more on that shortly. There have been robberies in that same area that we see a connection to the possible robbery murder the other night. So, you know, I don't know what it is. I wish I knew what it was because then I would stop it before it happens. But you see periods of time in the city where we're just having things happen. Now, these are connected, so we have to get on it and make sure nobody else is shot because of these beefs.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Look, I think it's a good thing that our numbers are down for last year for homicides. Obviously, no life loss is acceptable, but I also think it's really important for us not to read in particular to the homicide number because the actual gauge of violence is homicides, the number of people shot that did not die, and the number of shots fired in the city that didn't hit anyone, because you know there's an element of randomness to whether someone after a gun is discharged gets hit and dies, their proximity to the hospital where they got hit in their body. And so I think oftentimes, understandably, the media focuses very much on the homicides because that's a life lost, but is not overall the best gauge of the violence in the city. And if you add up all those numbers, overall the trend is going down, even though the number of people shot in the city that did not die is slightly up from last year. But if you add all those numbers down, it's, in my view, a much better gauge of the violence that we see in the city. It's going in the right direction, although clearly we have a lot more work to do. I would just add one other question that came up about the school supports is the chief also had an additional school resource officer at the school and the police comfort dog at the school to help support as well.
This is related to the case of Josiah. We have yet to find those suspects. Are the same people involved in the incident with Josiah involved with the incident with Davey? Is it a group, gangs? What are we talking about?
I mean, we have a couple different scenarios out there, and we have a couple different groups. I believe they're connected, but we also have some scenarios that are just fights over girls and other things that it's not a group thing. It could just be a disrespect thing, so the groups come out and do what they do. But as we see it, I don't think it's a coincidence that the two of them are killed within 2 weeks apart, you know. But it could very well be the same group that's shooting, just a different reason.
Does Daley live on Shelton Ave? Is he walking home?
Yeah, he lives further down Shelton.
So he was walking home?
Kinda.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the suspect, I know we can say a lot about that stolen car, but do you believe there was one person in the car, two people in the car? Did they?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Was
No.
For both of these?
So you're saying there was not an interaction?
Not, well, we're looking at grainy video from a distance. We don't have great video in that area, but it doesn't appear to be.
That was gonna be my question. What do you guys, do you have video, surveillance video? What are you using to kind of piece this together?
Yeah, there's video from a house in that area that shows the actual shooting.
Both of them for Daly and Uzziah?
Uzziah, yeah, but it's not as clear as Daly's.
Does anyone want to speak to, whether it's Dr. Negron or somebody else? I know, Mayor, you spoke about Uzziah and Jackson really quickly, just about who they are as people, what you've learned, how their families are doing over the last couple of days.
So I can add that I think it was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. The school had coordinated an event, again, for the community to come together. They shared that it was really a great event just to like celebrate Uzziah, a day of hope. At that event, the mother was able to attend, as well as a sister attended. Again, the school community rally around the family. And we do know that at that particular event, Daly spoke about his friendship with Uzziah. So one of the things that I've learned about Daly is that this commitment, right, to how he honor, friendship and respect. That was the way that the school community described him. So today, it wasn't about a convening. It was more about greeting people with the supports when they reported to school today. You've heard about what the supports look like. To then read like the energy in the school, to see where it is that we need to go. Again, I have to say, this is a first. This is a first for us in the school community, and that was something that we share with the faculty today. We're gonna go based on the emotions that we get, the feel of the community, what we feel is needed, because we've never been in a space where we have lost 2 young lives in less than 2 weeks. My message to the staff this morning was to make sure that, again, they were able to process what that loss meant for them as a community, ensure that if they needed, like we say, like tap out, that they could tap out so that they have what they need. And just like we always say, right, let's put the oxygen mask on first so that we know we're good, to then be able to show up for the support that we need to give our students. So there'll be more to come in the upcoming days, but I ask everybody, like, continue to pray for these families, continue to pray for school community, because again, it's a heavy load right now.
And to note on that, Uzziah Shell's funeral is Saturday, and we will have school counselors, CTVIP, police presence. There'll be a lot of support out there for the kids that are attending that. Any other questions?
I have a question. There was a lot of talk about, being worried about retaliation. Are there things that happened previously that you're aware of? I understand that you're in the middle of an investigation, but are there things that have already happened that these things are retaliation for? Is there another shooting or something that happened a month ago that somebody's getting back at people for?
So there's a series of events that have occurred over a period of time that we were on top of, where at least 1 or 2 shootings were connected to this. There was even a situation where a dog was stolen, and we did a search warrant to get the dog and return it. So we're familiar with the people involved in this, and but that doesn't mean it's not from a different source. So we've opened our investigation to every avenue and every dispute these two young men have had to make sure that we're covering everything. And we're getting a lot of help from the school department and CTVIP and all our partners with the storylines, like, because we don't know everything, right? So we've been working together to kind of piece it together. But there is a series of events that always leads to this. It's not, most of the time, it's not a random act that just happens. So there was a series of events. We were on it before. The school even did some conflict management with Uzziah. So this is what we do normally to prevent homicides and shootings.
Is it safe to say that you guys obviously still need information from the community?
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for bringing that up. You know, we want anyone that has any information to come forward. Our investigation is progressing, but it's sometimes one of those one or two little pieces that people don't think are important that are. So please come forward. In both cases, we've used home cameras and city cameras, and we've recovered the stolen cars that have been used in both these cases. So we're moving forward on the case, but we always need more information. Okay, thank you.